Elanga to Newcastle? Who'd have thought? Now, I hate to say I told you so, but I also don't hate to say I told you so. I actually love to say I told you so. So, because I was the first person to say it before anyone in the media, I told you so. There we go. I've said it 4 times now. Told you so. 5 now. So now that I've finally got that off my chest, we do still need Elanga to pass a medical. So it's not fully confirmed yet, but Wilson has once passed a medical. So I think we're going to be fine. And as usual, there's probably been a lot of bullshit, but I'm going to do what I've now been proven to be incredible at doing, which is sifting through the bullshit and figuring out the actual narrative of what is probably happening. I promise I won't be this insufferable every time I get it right, but when you get the W's, you got to take the W's. So we're going to look through the news, see what's happening, what's true, what's not, or not what's true, what I think is true, what I don't think is true. And then after that, we're going to look at Elanga, why I think he's going to be class, a bit about his price tag, because a lot of people seem to be thinking we've overpaid for him, and then why I think everyone is wrong for saying we've overpaid for him. But to start with, a quick roundup of the news that we've seen. So what we've seen is Wilson's gone. Leeds have made a 3rd bid for Sean Longstaff. Trafford has been seen in just about every major landmark in the northeast. We're apparently working on 2 deals on the continent, but neither of them have apparently been in the public domain yet. Like, neither of the names, no one's talking about these names yet. João Pedro went to Chelsea, and there's talks of Scalvini being apparently available for around 50 million, despite initial reports of being available for around 30, 35. So what can we take from all of that? Or what have I taken from all of that? Wilson's gone. We bid for João Pedro, so this has made it evidently clear that we are in the market for a striker of some sort. It was maybe going to be João Pedro, but the point is we now need someone to replace what Wilson was, sort of. Outside of that, we know we're in for a right winger and a goalkeeper, because we made bids for Trafford and Elanga. And then we also know that we're in for a centre-back, because we made some bids before for Gehi. So overall, we've known this for a while, but overall, we know we're in for a striker, right winger, goalkeeper and centre-back. And as I said, it's been reported that we're in for 2 targets on the continent that nobody knows the name of. Now, by process of elimination, considering we have the right wing spot pretty much covered, goalkeeper looks pretty much covered, because it looks like we're going to sign Elanga and Trafford, the 2 players that we're looking at on the continent could either be a striker and a centre-back, or 2 potential targets for the centre-back spot, and then we just go get like Dominic Calvert-Lewin or something on a free. Now, I don't think it's the second one. I don't think we're going to go for Dominic Calvert-Lewin on a free, simply because the more time I've had to think about this, Calvert-Lewin just doesn't make logical sense. I know he's 5 years younger than Callum Wilson, but he's kind of the same problem that we had with Callum Wilson, in that we need, especially with having European football this season and how badly we struggled with that last time we had it, we need someone to come in and give us genuine squad depth and be a reliable backup striker. A large part of the problem with Wilson was that he was not a reliable backup striker because he was always injured. So we offered him a pay-as-you-play deal because we didn't want someone on the wage books, essentially, who was just barely ever available. So logically, you can see why Calvert-Lewin doesn't really solve that problem. He's basically just the same player, just younger. So we're just going to have another 5 years of someone never being able to actually play and never being able to actually offer us squad depth. Now, I'm not saying it will definitely not happen, because I know nothing for a start. I'm not in the know of any kind, but also there is a possibility it could happen just because he's on a free transfer and PSR might make it so that that is just the only option we have. However, if the free transfer was the thing that attracted us the most, I would have said that we would have probably made more effort to sign Jonathan David if we really were that attracted by the idea of a backup striker on a free transfer. But Jonathan David has now gone to Juventus, so that's not happening. Speaking of PSR though, Longstaff is potentially going to Leeds for around 12 million or like 10 million and 2 million and add-ons or something. Now, this one is odd for a number of reasons. First of all, it leaves us short on like squad depth and also on like club grown players for Champions League quota and stuff, which could potentially be a hint to what I said in one of my other videos about the potential tactical change, where we might switch to seeing more of a 3-back more often this season, and we'd have 2 in the midfield, so we'd need less squad depth if we only are playing with two midfielders a lot of the time, but it might also not be that. And if Longstaff does go, we might just end up back in the market for some kind of, you know, cheap squad depth sort of midfielder. Who knows? Let me know what you think in the comments. Are we going to change shape? Are we going to go back in for some sort of cheap squad depthy midfielder? If so, who do you think that could be? What we have seen though in this report is two things. One, somehow this is the third bid and no one at the club or no one in the media found out about the first two bids. So again, that shows that realistically, don't listen to a word you hear from the majority of media outlets and whatever, because a lot of the times things like targets and bids and whatever, we're very, very good at keeping things within the club now. We have clearly a very good, trusted group of individuals who are the ones working on deals and the ones, you know, making things happen within the club, and everything stays with them. So if the club don't want us to know about it, a lot of the time we won't know about it, which again is only anchored by the fact that, you know, apparently we're working on two deals on the continent, but nobody knows who they are. So that is exciting. The other thing we also saw is that Longstaff apparently, again reportedly, has apparently said that he wants the club to make profit from him being sold. He doesn't want to run his contract down and go on a free. And for me, I think we've got to show Longstaff some love there, because when we've seen what we've recently seen with Trent going to Liverpool, you know, he could have quite easily just been selfish, ran his contract down, gone on a free, got a bag. Like, so I think we've got to show Longstaff some love there for thinking about the club, especially as well with him being an academy player. Us getting, you know, 10, 12 million for him, that comes in obviously straight away. So then we can look to amortize more deals going forward. So like 10, 12 million ends up being like a potential sort of like 40, 50 million pound player when them deals are amortized. But having said that, with him being an academy player and with it all being profit, maybe that's what this is. Maybe it's just another PSR kind of loophole where obviously we, you know, sell an academy player similar to like we did with Elliot Anderson, but then another player comes the other way, like the whole Vlachodimos thing. Hopefully this time it would be someone a bit more useful than Vlachodimos. Maybe it would be, you know, the midfielder that comes the other way, you know, from Leeds to fill that kind of squad depth hole that we now would be creating. Who knows? Is there a Leeds midfielder any of you would want to see come the other way? Who knows what's going on with that deal? It does seem a bit strange, but I don't know. And then the last thing we've also seen is that Atlanta have said that they want 50 million for Scalvini. And obviously from the start, this one was always completely speculative. So I'd take everything about the Scalvini one with a pinch of salt. But what we have seen since is that the club are working on two deals on the continent that nobody knows about. Now, maybe that is on top of a potential Scalvini deal, but my assumption would be that it's not, and that it's that we're working on two other deals and that we're not actively currently working on a deal for Scalvini. That's not to say that I don't think there's an interest there. I think there maybe could be an interest there, but I think that interest was under the idea that if he was going for around 30 to 35 million, that would be too much of a good deal to not be interested. But I think any talk of 50 million with his injury record has just kind of completely put any idea of that deal to bed. Maybe we're still staying alert to the situation. Maybe they drop the price. I don't know, but I guess only time will tell on that one. But anyway, back on Longstaff and the targets. If Longstaff is to go, I would then assume that we will probably be almost definitely in for a centre-back and a striker. Again, as I said, I think they will both be players from on the continent, so somewhere in Europe. I think there's a large possibility that Scalvini is a smokescreen for someone else in the way that Barella was for Tonali. I can imagine the striker will probably be in the mold of like a João Pedro, so like versatile, technically good, more of like a shadow striker, but also clinical. And yeah, if Longstaff is to go, I think that makes it more and more likely that we won't have to resort to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, simply because we'll be in a much better PSR position. Now, on the topic of money, have we paid too much for Elanga? No. And let me tell you for why. Elanga is basically Murphy and Miggy mixed into one. Now, on the face of it, that doesn't sound majorly exciting, but let me explain a bit more. So essentially, he has the strengths of both of them, but the weaknesses of neither of them. If you cast your mind back to when Miggy had his purple patch a couple years ago, he had a really good partnership with Trippier down the right side. It was all set up in a way that Miggy would cut in a lot of the time and either shoot on his left foot, or Trippier would overlap and put a cross in. And Trippier was able to do that overlap because Miggy was always cutting inside. Essentially, Miggy would cut inside, which would draw the defenders inwards, and then Trippier would go on forwards into the space that had then been created to then put a ball into the box. And that as a fullback role is something that we know Tino can do very well, because we've seen him doing it on the left side, but we haven't seen him doing it so much on the right side. And the reason why Tino hasn't been able to do it so much on the right side is because he's behind Murphy, and Murphy can't really cut in too well and doesn't really have the confidence with his left foot to shoot on his left foot and sort of curl it into the opposite side of the goal. But what Murphy can do is he can use his pace to get himself, you know, sort of past a man to the byline and then put a cross in with his right foot, and that sort of worked really well for us a lot this season. But the problem with that is Tino wants to be in that space, but obviously Murphy's gone in there instead. So Tino is then just sort of left not really with anywhere to go in terms of the attack. And obviously what Murphy could do there was something that Miggy categorically couldn't do, because he just did not have a right foot at all. So then if we look at both of them when they were successful, obviously they worked, but then quickly, especially the Miggy one, that got caught out, because eventually they just realized, right, just show Miggy onto his right foot, track his runs when he tries to go in between to get on his left foot, and then if he ever drops the ball back to Trippier, just make sure that you get all the men in the box to defend any aerial balls. But the point is, Miggy got found out very quickly. Now, Murphy hasn't been found out as such. Murphy has still had a really good season and he's just managed to carry on, keep on doing what he's doing. Now, there is the possibility that he would eventually get found out and maybe next season he would struggle a little bit. We saw it with Miggy. He had one really good season and then after that he just couldn't replicate it because teams just wised up to it. But regardless of whether Murphy does get found out or not, maybe he doesn't, because he does seem to have a really good partnership with Isak. But what Elanga offers that Murphy doesn't is Elanga can use both of his feet. Like, he is right-footed, so he can still go out and do what Murphy does, use his pace to get to the byline. He's incredibly fast, probably faster than Murphy, which is mental because Murphy's very fast, but he can use his pace, get to the byline, put the cross in, and he did that plenty of times this season and got loads of assists to Chris Wood. But Elanga also has the confidence to cut inside, use his left foot and curl a shot across goal into the far corner. And just him having that in his locker alone will terrify defences, because instead of being able to just think, right, it's Murphy, he's going to the byline, we've just got to try to defend against that, you now have what we already have on the left, which is this kind of mix of where the fuck are they going to go? What are they going to do? When we go down the left, we have Gordon, who can use his pace, take the ball to the byline. He can put a cross in with his left foot. He can also cut inside because he's right-footed and take a shot across goal into the far corner, or lay the ball across into someone else like Isak or Murphy or someone to tap it in at the back post or shoot, whatever. But also, when they cut in, Lewis Hall also overlaps, and then you've got an option to play to Lewis Hall, and we will have that as well on the opposite side with Tino. So basically we go from having kind of like a two-dimensional attack or three even dimensional attack on the left side with Gordon cutting in, Gordon byline, Lewis Hall byline, and also potentially early crosses as well, to also having the same on the right wing. Because currently we kind of just have a one-dimensional attack on the right wing, which is just Murphy uses pace, gets to byline, crosses the ball in. That's it. We just have that one dimension currently. But the introduction of Elanga makes it so that we have a sort of 3-4-ish dimensional attack on both sides, and then Isak is class in the middle. And also Isak is also multi-dimensional in his avenues to goal. He's not like a Haaland in the sense of just wait in the box, can only score goals really in one way. Isak can create goals on his own. He can drop back, he can drift wide, he can get in behind, he can poach in the box, sort of like Haaland does. Like, he can do bits of everything. So the point is, that front three is going to be fucking terrifying to defenses. So yeah, for 52 plus add-ons million, I think Elanga is worth it just for that alone. But then there's also the fact that, unlike Mbuemo, he doesn't go to AFCON this year, so we actually keep him for the whole year and he's available for the whole year, which obviously helps with squad depth. He's already got mates of the club in Asula and Isak, so he should ideally settle in very well. We've got very little risk of him, you know, coming in and upsetting the dressing room, because he should just sort of blend straight in, especially with the fact that he seems to have the right kind of mentality, you know, with his training and stuff. The kind of mentality that Eddie Howe seems to instill into the club anyway, that seems to already be part of Elanga and who he is. You know, he's fast as fuck. He works hard as fuck on his fitness to be as available as fuck, because he just wants to play every game. And ultimately, we bid 50 million for him before he just had the blinder of a season he's just had. So to say we're now getting him, and well, we've had a deal accepted and are probably getting him for 52 million plus add-ons after he's just had, the season he's just had, getting 17 goal contributions in the Premier League for a Nottingham Forest team that were 18th in the league for average possession, I think that is a pretty good deal. And no disrespect to Forest, because obviously incredible season, but in a team that's obviously going to be attacking more, has more possession, you would expect that an attacker would be able to thrive more in that environment. There could be a nuance to that in a certain sense, because Elanga does thrive a little bit on the counter-attack because of his pace, but I still think he's going to do well in an attack that is attacking more as well. And we do break on the counter quite a lot as well. But yeah, ultimately you can see how Elanga would potentially thrive more in a team that is attacking and has possession more as an attacker. But anyway, let me know what you think. Am I wrong? Have we paid too much for Elanga? Either way, I wasn't wrong about us signing him. So once again, I told you so. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like. Everything's starting to get a bit more exciting now. So also make sure you subscribe and hit the bell, because the news is actually starting to finally flood in and we seem to be making moves in the transfer window. I hope you have enjoyed this video and I'll see you on the next one.